Welcome everyone to Haven of Four. As always, I am Subject. I have Torgo and Robert with us. We're here to talk about a James Cameron movie,
Yeah.
Aliens.
That's a James Cameron movie.
I kind of grown on this alternate artwork. I think it helps that this movie didn't really have, in my opinion, an iconic poster. This works, I think.
Yeah, I guess there's that poster of just Ripley holding Newt, and they're among all the eggs.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
that's what this is. It's just in a different angle. Because you still got her holding her into her and the other.
Yeah. But I don't know. I'm fine with either cover.
Yeah, it's not like say Alien, where they changed the cover for the 4K as well, and it's not as good because that cover is iconic.
That is an iconic poster, yeah.
Yes. And I think the VHS tape of Aliens was just the black case with just the blue Aliens logo, and that was it. So that didn't have a poster at all, but it still looked kind of cool.
I kind of like the minimalism of that one where it's just the logo. I kind of like that one.
Yeah, no, that's great. Torgo, give us a plot summary for Aliens.
So, Aliens is the sequel to Shocker, Alien. This time, there's an S at the end, so there's more of them. But we pick up with Ripley, 57 years after the original. He's been in cryosleep for a long time, and she wakes up to realize that her daughter is gone, has aged and died without her. And
depending on the cut you watch.
Depending on the cut, yeah.
And we'll get to that.
But she also discovers that the planet that they landed on, where the crashed alien ship, has now colonized. And later, the aliens come out and start attacking everyone in the colonies. So she's assigned with this team of space marines to go down and basically save all of the survivors and
make a perimeter around them.
Create around the survivors a perimeter. Create. That's the general premise of Aliens.
It is. That was quite the summary. Thank you. So where do you guys want to start? Do you want to start with the theatrical cut and then talk about the differences in the special edition, director's cut, whatever you want to call it? Or do you want to start with the special edition?
I think maybe we should save comparisons for later and just get to I don't know, what we like about this movie.
I don't disagree. I just mean, what cut do you want to start with so we're not jumping back and forth?
I think we can mainly just focus on the theatrical for now.
Okay. So obviously this movie takes place 50 years after Alien, but they have cryosleep to explain it, which is kind of cool. The only problem, and we'll get more into this later, but I don't know if it needed to be 50 years in this cut.
Specifically in the theatrical cut?
And specifically in the theatrical cut.
Oh, because of the Newt thing?
It does, because that's the only way the colony makes sense. I guess you could say that happened in a decade, but you still need a significant amount of time for that to make sense.
Yeah. No, you're right. I didn't think about that. But what I appreciate about the status quo of this movie is Alien isn't really a happy ending either. She's just drifting off into space. And it's kind of the Sam Raimi thing where each movie progressively gets worse for our protagonist. But in this case, Ellen Ripley. But also Evil Dead 2 is kind of the best balance of she's a badass, but things keep getting worse for her.
Yeah. Although by the end of this one, it's a pretty happy ending, all things considered. It's just
until you get to the next movie.
And they never made another one.
Yeah, I was going to say, retroactively, because of what we know what happened in the next one, it's not so much a happy ending. But like she's got a new family, she's got a new daughter. Like just for this movie as a piece, it's a happy ending.
No, yeah.
Well, a defense I always hear for Alien 3, which is a movie where there are things I like about it. We'll review that another time. But a defense I always hear about like why it should be so dour and depressing and stuff is like, well, it gets back to the tone of the first movie. The second one was the crowd-pleasing happy ending. And I don't know, the first one, like, it's dark and there's definitely that Lovecraftian horror atmosphere to it. But by the end of that movie, it's still a little crowd-pleasing. Like, she saves the cat. You know, she saves the cat.
Okay.
He gets away. Like, it's not a super depressing.
So let me ask you:
ending.
is this ending any more upbeat than the original? Like, yeah, she's not alone this time, but it's the same status quo. They're going into hypersleep. Who knows when they'll be found?
I mean, it still plays like a happy ending to me, but I guess this can also.
Well, but Alien plays like a happy ending as well. But when you think about it,
Yeah,
she's kind of screwed.
Yeah, well, in that one she's alone, and this one she's got people with her.
Yeah, exactly.
But she's still screwed, stranded out in the middle of nowhere.
I've never interpreted it as her being stranded. Like, maybe technology's gotten better.
Yeah, I think the ship is supposed to be heading back to the base.
Earth. Yeah.
Are you sure? Because they made it seem like, well, maybe they'll find us.
I mean, they don't really say. I don't know. I guess it could be read either way.
It's never played that ambiguous to me, but I guess that can segue us into, though, a lot of people, again, another defense, the third one is like, well, it's a horror movie again. The second one was just an action movie, and my response to that is like, I still consider this an action horror movie. Like, would you guys?
No, this
like,
is
there's still a lot
absolutely
of
an
horror.
action horror. Arguably, this is the action horror film.
Right.
This is a perfect balance.
Like, compare this to something like Terminator 2, which James Cameron also did, and while that still has horror elements, I think we'd all agree, like, that's primarily an action movie. Like, there's some scary stuff in it, but, like, that's an action movie for the most part. This is a horror action movie. Like, there's still a lot of horror in it.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that.
I mean, you have that scene where they go into the colonies and they find all the cocoons, and that's like a really tense, a genuinely really tense scene. And, like, it gets pretty, like, not over the top, but it gets bigger and a little more actiony later in that scene, but it's still more focused on tension for the most part.
Also, Noah, I just have to say, I love your like neon background.
I don't know. This is random background on Discord. I got tired of the city one.
Don't shatter the illusion, man.
I'm hacking into the mainframe.
In a lot of ways, when people are talking about Alien, even now, this is the one they're thinking of, right? Like, there's so much of what this series as a franchise is now in this movie versus, like, Alien.
Yeah. I mean...
It's arguably the most popular one.
Which is sad, because the first one is better.
I love them both pretty equally.
I still don't know at this point. I love them both. But yeah, this one's arguably the more iconic movie. I guess in the original you have the chestburster scene, and obviously there's chestburster scenes in this one, but like that's like the big thing from the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Where in this, I think most people kind of think of just like the Marines and get away from her, you bitch, like a bunch of other quotable lines. Game over, man.
Yeah, the Alien Queen.
Game over, man. Game over.
Well, and the first one does have like a top 3 most iconic movie tagline though. In space, no one can hear you scream. That's great.
Oh,
this one's got a good tagline too. This time it's war. That's a good tagline, but that first tagline's like top 3.
Oh, they didn't put that on the Blu-ray.
It's not on a lot of the covers or posters. This is the Blu-ray I have. I love this little box.
Oh, that is a good box set.
And I like the cover. It's Ripley and Newt, but got the Queen.
You've got the third best Alien movie.
We'll get to rankings later. But
if you put Resurrection over this, we're gonna have some heated arguments.
Oh God, I don't even want to think about Resurrection right now.
But it's the third best Alien movie.
So anyway, what do you think is the second best?
The cast in this movie, I think, is great. I'd argue that
Yes.
this is probably the most iconic supporting cast, and maybe the best
Yes.
supporting cast out of the whole franchise. Yeah, I really like this. The Marines, they're all very likable. Like
They're probably
Bill
the most
Paxton.
iconic.
You got Bill Paxton and Michael Biehn and Vasquez and Bishop too.
Did you realize that Vasquez, because that's the woman Marine, right?
Yeah.
You realize that's the stepmom from Terminator 2?
Yes.
Oh, I had no idea.
Somebody told me that when I was watching the movie, because I watched both cuts.
I can see it now.
I was looking at her and I was like, I kind of see it, but like, I also kind of don't.
Well, I wasn't gonna bring this up. I guess we should acknowledge the elephant in the room. If there's anything dated for this movie, is that they put that actress in brown face and a wig to make her look like a Mexican instead of just casting a Mexican actress. Like, I don't know what she is. I think she's biracial in real life. I don't know what she is. It's a little.
Whoa! You don't know what she is? Why isn't she just a human?
No, but
yeah, Robert, she's a human.
Her name's Jeanette Goldstein, and she's great. Even if it's questionable casting, I still love Vasquez. She's awesome, and she's also in the vampire movie Near Dark with Bill Paxton and Lance Henriksen.
Yes,
and that movie is freaking awesome. If you can find that movie, watch it.
We were going to review that at some point. Maybe we'll try to actually do it this time.
But yeah, because it left Shudder before we could do it. I ended up watching it on the Criterion channel.
Yeah. Oh, but nice. John, you were going to make a point about the cast. I think I interrupted you. But
I think my biggest problem with saying it's the most iconic is really it's just those, like maybe those two or three. Like the Marines, half of those Marines are forgettable cannon fodder.
Oh, I don't agree with that. I love the drill sergeant. He's not in the movie a lot. He chews so much scenery.
Apon.
Yeah, it's the guy from Halo.
Yeah.
No, there's a character in Halo that is clearly that guy.
That was some trivia I read. So that is like he wakes up from cryo sleep, puts a cigarette in his mouth. It's like my mom's favorite scene of the movie.
Immediately or cigar in his mouth. Yeah.
And Vasquez has a friend, and like he's fun. Like he dies quickly, but you buy their friendship. And I don't know. You got Michael Biehn in this movie, who's great. Obviously, Bill Paxton. Like in terms of just like the mainstream recognizability. I mean, maybe not now because this is kind of an old movie, but like generally speaking, I mean, you've got.
You ever
Bill
seen
Paxton,
that really old movie Alien?
Like, yeah.
Oh god. Okay, Peter Parker.
It's getting up there, but it's great. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. This cast is pretty iconic. Like Paul Reiser, like he's a big '80s guy. Now in Stranger Things.
I think I just find this cast a lot more likable. Like, it's hard to compare because I do really like the cast in the original movie, and I like. It's kind of going more. It's going for a bit of a different thing where those kind of feel like real people.
Yes,
and like I talked
these
about.
These are cartoon characters.
Yes. Like in Alien, they're a lot more like naturalistic and like they feel like a real crew. In this, they're caricatures, but they're really fun caricatures.
No, don't get me wrong. I think some of them are really good. But when I think about the Marines, the two that stand out to me are Vasquez and Bill Paxton's character. Michael Biehn is fine, but I feel like he gets a little lost in the shuffle. And I feel like that's just because, at least on a character level, he's not as, I want to say, charismatic as like Bill Paxton. Because Bill Paxton just chews scenery like every scene that he's in.
Right.
And the sergeant guy is fine. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just cynical because I've seen that character done after this, which isn't fair to the piece. But I feel like two of the Marines kind of rise to the top above everyone else.
I mean,
the first movie is literally 7 characters. Like it's as far as our main ensemble goes, like it's about as many as the first movie had. You know, when we get to our main ensemble in the back half.
I'm not saying they're not, but I'm saying that the characters in Alien feel more like Noah said, feel more like human beings. These are caricatures.
Well, that's true.
And if you're going to be a
Yeah.
caricature, you need to have a charismatic actor to make your performance memorable. I'm not saying that anyone was forgettable, but I'm saying that some are below others.
See, and I don't know if it's just because I don't know. I really like Michael Biehn, and I think I would call him a charismatic actor. And I think I'm with you a little bit on the character himself. Like, there's not a whole lot to that character, but I don't know. I think Michael Biehn has just a really good like screen presence.
Well, he's the level-headed one of the group, and he's a support character to Ripley. I mean, he's there to help Ripley and serve her story. You know, he's not treated as an equal.
I think he works better in something like Terminator, where it's really just him and another actress, and he can play a different type of character. Whereas you're putting him up against like Bill Paxton, the lady that plays Vasquez. You just said her name, but I can't remember. Who are more scene steel. I've been drinking a little bit. Shut up.
I don't know. I mean, he's more of the everyman of the group, and I've always really liked him in this.
Well, but I think that's part of the problem is we already have an everyman with Ripley.
Yeah, but but you need someone like that from the military, from the Marine side. Like I like
within that group.
I think he balances them out. And I love the cast of the first movie. Like, they are all cast.
I think he's bad. I just think he gets overshadowed. I don't know why I'm getting flack for this.
I'm not trying to give you flack. I just I
put him
really
up against Bill Paxton. Who is remembered more?
Well, Bill Paxton definitely, but I never still like Hicks.
But in the first movie, like Harry Dean Stanton's great. I love him, but he's also not in that movie a lot. He's taken out early. Like, they're not. Some are still more memorable than others. Like, it's the same thing with this movie. Like, we're just saying, like, it's
some get overshadowed by others. You're literally agreeing with me while also saying I'm wrong.
but that I'm not agreeing with you, because I still like him. I still think he stands out. He just doesn't stand out as much as, you know, a few of the heavy hitters. But I think he's really good.
I'm just making the statement that he gets overshadowed by the other cast members.
Okay, all we were talking about, really, yes, let's move on. But we were just saying, and we stand by this, that this is arguably the most iconic cast ensemble of the movie.
I think this is probably my favorite cast of the franchise.
It's this and the first one. Like, they are both. Like,
and the first.
I don't know. Alien Resurrection is pretty high up there. You got Ron Perlman.
Can we just?
I love Ron Perlman.
Not until we have to talk about that movie.
But that movie's fun. I don't know what's your problem with that movie.
Let's stay on target.
Stay on target.
So the main crux of this movie is obviously Ripley and Newt. Which I'm blanking at the moment. Is that just what she says her name is, or is that a nickname they give her?
That's she prefers to be called Newt. Her real name's Rebecca.
Yeah, okay. But it is like a nickname, but something she calls herself.
Yeah. I really like Newt for a child actress at the time. She is doing great.
She's really good.
Yeah. I'm shocked because you don't see many good kid actors from this time period.
Yeah, when you first meet her, at least in the theatrical cut, when you first meet her, she does a great job of playing like a traumatized child.
Yeah.
Wait, are you saying? Did you say you disagree with that?
There's lots of good child actors from the 80s.
From the 80s?
Like, have you seen Stand By Me?
Like Corey Feldman?
Corey Feldman, Kiefer Sutherland, Josh Brolin, the kid from Temple of Doom, Kyu Kwan.
Yeah,
like, there's lots of good 80s child actors.
I don't know. Corey Feldman's okay, but he's not like amazing.
He's really good. He's really good. You're not giving him enough credit.
Yeah, it's good for a kid actor. But anyway,
Newt's really good.
Yeah,
there are some corny moments, but like they're not necessarily her fault. I think the cheesiest part of the whole movie, it cracks me up every time. It's after the ship explodes when they're like, shucks, I guess we're not getting off the planet. Is Ripley turns to Newt and just says, I'm sorry, Newt. Like the way she says it makes me laugh every time. It's just like, like it feels like she just dropped her lollipop. I'm sorry, Newt. Like that's the.
Dude,
Other than
the
that,
thi-
Sigourney Weaver's amazing in this movie.
the thing in that scene I always think about, obviously, is just like you hear "Game over, man, game over" in the
Yes,
background when Bill
which is
Paxton's
amazing.
freaking out. Yeah, that's one of the iconic lines from this. But we can talk. I guess if we want to save like talking about the special edition for later, I'll still just say that Newt and Ripley's relationship is it's good in the theatrical version. I think that there's a little bit more context to it in the special
Yes.
edition, but it still works pretty well. Yeah, and I think the two actors just have really good chemistry.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, it's impressive how well everything comes together. Especially changing tones like this. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm no like movie historian, but this is one of the first big like the first movie is like a horror movie, and then we're jumping to like action horror for the second one, right? Like this is the first big one.
You're
I
probably
mean, the
not
only
wrong.
other
Wait, I
example
made a
can
point,
think
and for
of-
once, Robert isn't going to argue with me. What?
You've been arguing
only
with me this whole stream.
The only other one I can think of, obviously, is Terminator. So, and obviously, this is before T2. So
That
you're
comes
probably right
later.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I could really think of that's very different is like how something like the Universal monster movies start as just straightforward horror movies and then turn into weird schlock after. But like those are very different.
Yeah,
things
no,
than
that's
this.
I can see that. This movie looks great. Like,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
Noah and I watched the 4K because I believe you got it as well, and all we'd heard is complaints. But man, it felt like watching this movie for the first time. Although it helped that I was watching it the first time I watched it was a cut that I hadn't seen before. But man, it looks beautiful.
I mean, I don't know if this is like a controversial thing to say, but I honestly think this is the best looking version of this movie. I kept hearing stuff, and I also bought the True Lies 4K, and I haven't looked at that yet because I haven't seen the movie yet. But I kept hearing negative stuff about the new Cameron 4Ks, and because of his track record, I know the T2 one was pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
I was like dreading. I was like, all right, I think I'm gonna avoid getting these, but since we were reviewing this movie, I was like, why the hell not? And when I actually watched it, I really couldn't notice any like AI or any like anything that was like too smooth. Like all the characters, you could still see the detail on the characters and like the sets and stuff. Like it's just a really good looking 4K. Like I don't know. Yeah, I'd recommend it.
I'd highly recommend it. Don't listen to anyone. If you just pick it up if you can find it. I know there was some stocking issues there for a while, but hopefully they got that fixed. But what is really cool about this movie is a lot of the effects, even when you get to when you have some of the more ambitious stuff, like that opening shot of like the ship, going through space. It looks better than I think it should, because they're using, I would assume, miniatures, and stuff. And then I would assume all of the aliens are still practical.
Yeah, it's a mix of like animatronics and people in suits. Like I watched a little bit of the behind the scenes stuff, and I didn't know there's like 3 people in that queen alien suit.
Oh wow!
I always thought it was all animatronic, but I think that's just the head. Like the body, there's like different people controlling the arms inside. Like it was really cool. Like that's the effort that they put into this.
I sadly did not get a chance to watch any of the special features. I barely finished the theatrical cut before we had to come film this.
Oh, yeah.
Well, one of the first shots of this movie that's just always mesmerized me is when they first like find Ripley's ship There's just all the frost, and it's all very cold, and there's like fog in there, and like that beam of light comes in, that blue beam that's just scanning back and forth, and just like the way the fog reflects off of that, like it's such a cool looking shot. It's one of those shots where I'm like, how did he do that? Like it looks beautiful. And the whole movie, even like when the miniatures are obvious, like you don't care just because it looks cool.
I don't care.
Like
that's the thing. I never really care about that stuff with old movies because I find it charming, and it's like, even if it like the really good looking ones, like I'm always just so impressed. Like like this was made by people. Like this is like a handcrafted in-camera effect. Not to romanticize that stuff, or obviously you can create great work with CGI, but like, I do say I'm a kind of the opinion that we rely on it a little too much now. But
yes, well, and this is a movie that holds up.
Conversation.
This movie holds up like 90%, 95%, and like that 5 to 10% that's a little dated. Like that's the stuff that could be hypothetically touched up with CG. We don't actually want that, but you know what I mean. Just looking at it.
No, I want them to copy and paste 20 more xenomorphs onto every frame.
No. But some of the effects that are a little dated, and this is very nitpicky. It's just sometimes when there's like clearly just a puppet or like just a figure xenomorph who's about to get shot or run over by the truck, who's just like frozen,
like a dummy.
For a second. Right, it's just a dummy, and it pulls up. Like, and again, it's a nitpick. It's not a big deal. Most of it looks freaking awesome.
Yeah, no, I love that stuff. And actually, when I was a kid and I first watched these movies, I always preferred this one because, like on a first viewing, I was always, for one, it's more of like an action movie, so I like that. And I was always impressed with the effects, and I was like more so than the original because this is on a bigger scale, and like they pulled it off, and it looks great. Now more so, I've grown to really love the original. So it's hard for me we could talk about it later, but it's hard for me to pick between the two of them.
The first one's better.
But yeah, it's easy for you to pick, but yeah, I mean, like, I think this is just a visual effects marvel, and it's like one of the greatest looking like sci-fi action movies I've seen.
A technical masterpiece, I would call it.
Yeah, definitely.
No, it's really impressive because on paper, if you just like handed me the script, I'd be like, this is a terrible follow-up to Alien. Like, what are you doing? But then you see it and it's like, oh, no, this actually kind of works.
Interesting. Yeah.
Well, because what I like about Alien is the claustrophobia and the scary factor of it and the unknown of space. And this one, and I'm not saying this to be as a bad thing, it's just true. They're just bugs.
Well,
yeah, I mean, it's going for a different thing. And I actually for some of the like behind the scenes documentaries I watched, they were interviewing the producer, Gail Ann Hurd, I think her name is. Yeah, and she said that their approach for this was very much not to do the same movie again. Like her and James Cameron wanted to do something that like expanded on the original, but was a different kind of tone and just like a different movie. So they didn't want to do like a remake disguised as a sequel, I think is the terminology she used. And I think this movie is really successful at doing that. And I've always really admired franchises that like shake it up between sequels where they kind of feel like it's a different genre every time. Because like, I don't know, I as much as I love the first Aliens, I think you could do a sequel to this movie and have it be more that claustrophobic tone, but it might just come off more as a remake.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny that that's what they were going for, because that's almost kind of what they made. It's usually what a lot of bad sequels are. It's just the first one again, but bigger, and there's more of it. But like, in terms of major plot beats and like the skeleton of it, this is a movie that does rehash a lot of the first one. They go to LB-426. There's the chest burster scene. There's the aliens loose, and then there's run around with flamethrowers. And then you get to the end, and you think that Ripley got away from the place that has to explode, and then an alien got on the ship, and now Ripley has to fight an alien and shoot it out an airlock. Like, it repeats a lot of the same beats of the first
and it
movie,
ends with them going into
and it has the same final shot.
And it begins with them going into hypersleep too.
That's
or
true.
Coming out of hypersleep. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of repeating, but just enough new elements and things that they mix up, like having an android character, but this time he's not the bad guy. Like, that's a good subversion. Yeah. So it does a really good job of adding just enough new and mixing stuff up. So it's not like obvious on first viewing, like what is being repeated, and just kind of doing the first one again.
Well, so in that way, I think this is one of the best examples of a sequel, because it hits a lot of the similar beats as the original and like kind of expands on the lore and stuff like that. But it does something completely different, and it feels like a different movie. So it's like you're not feeling like you're having the same exact experience as the first one.
And most importantly, Ripley feels like she's evolving as a character, even though she goes through a lot of the same stuff. There still feels like there's growth from her. Yeah,
definitely. So yeah, I mean, I think this is, honestly, it's kind of grown to be one of my favorite sequels of all time.
It is up there as a top tier sequel. I guess we finally found what Cameron is good at. Great sequels. Oh, so the Avatar 2 is really good? I haven't seen it.
It's all right.
But I mean Cameron when he wasn't a hack.
I like True Lies. I like The Abyss. I like the first Terminator.
Which is when Cameron wasn't a hack.
We're not going to have the Titanic, was it 30 years ago, conversation again.
Let's see. I wrote down some notes.
Good.
Yeah. What are we missing?
So I mentioned it in passing to you, Noah, I think. But to mention the director's cut for a moment, the director's cut specifically gives Ripley's daughter a name, Amanda Ripley. I did not realize that this is where this is from, but that is what the game Alien Isolation is about that character looking for her mom.
Yeah.
So now we know where her story kind of starts and where it ends. We don't have the middle.
Well, I haven't mentioned this to you, Noah, but the great thing, I mean, what sucks is, we'll get more into this later, but, Ripley's daughter not mentioned at all in the theatrical cut. Like, you have to watch the extended cut for that stuff. But what's great is, with that Alien Isolation game, had it had sequels, you could really do whatever you want with Amanda Ripley, and then just say, like, oh, right, Burke just lied. He just lied to Ellen Ripley about what happened to her daughter, because what? Burke lied to her? Like, I don't believe that. Like, that's an easy retcon. Yeah, like, that's an easy retcon, like, if you wanted to go there. Like, if Amanda just, like, disappeared or went off on her own adventure, or was killed by aliens, like, you could do whatever you want with Amanda Ripley, and, like, that's an easy retcon. Just say, like, Burke lied about it. It works.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I think that's a good idea, but I think I still like how it's played in the special edition, where
I feel like retconning it though would be kind of like killing Newt off at the beginning of your next film. Oh wait.
Well, what matters is Ripley's reaction to it and how she deals with that the rest of the movie.
Yeah, but then she was upset for no reason.
Not necessarily.
But why would she?
I mean,
why would she trust?
She abandoned her daughter.
Yeah, but also, why would she trust this company that she knows sent them out there to get that thing?
I don't have a straight answer for you.
It is over 50 years later. It's not the same people at that company. And she does ask Burke, like, face to face, like, we're going to destroy these things, right? And he says, yes, I gave you my word. And whoops, he ends up being a liar. But, it's what happens. And she only agrees to go with it because they lose contact with the colony. Like, I think it works.
No, what I'm saying is, and I'll swing back to that, but I think that stuff is some of the weaker stuff in the script. It feels like we just have to have that happen so the movie will happen. But what I'm saying is, If you retconned it, my only thought would be, well, why did you listen to them in the first place? They tried to kill you in the first movie.
I think you're on a
but
different train of thought than I am. And
But like Robert said, it's been decades since the first movie, and maybe management has changed.
But why would she trust them on first sight?
She woke up in a new time.
Really
She
good mood,
needs
apparently.
something Whatever.
what do you mean? with her chest burster nightmares?
That was
Yeah.
sarcasm.
Like I don't know. Like these are the first people she meets. Like
Who else is she gonna trust?
right. Especially
Like,
when like
Founder.
especially when everyone in that room is grilling her and doesn't believe her story.
Yeah, if
You
it
know,
were me, I'd
like-
get the fuck out of there.
Okay, and go where? She's stuck. She's a woman out of time.
So she has
needs
no
a
money.
job. Yeah, she's potentially the possibility of her getting arrested because they're like, look, all we know is all your crew died and you destroyed all this equipment. Like, I like how we deal with the consequences of that from the first movie, where there's no witnesses, there's no evidence, and
I mean, I wasn't even necessarily talking about the actual scripted movie. I was just talking about your retcon, or your retcon theory.
yeah,
But anyway, if you want to go
like,
there, all she would have had to do is just jump on a smuggler ship and leave.
I think we're just on a different plane with that. Noah knows what I'm talking about. I think we're coming at that from two different angles.
Noah's like, God damn
We
it.
should move on.
I just love how you two get into like the biggest
Yeah.
arguments over the littlest of things.
We're both very opinionated.
But I'm more confused than anything because I think we're arguing about different things, and that's why I think we should move on.
Yeah,
all I was
fine.
saying was you could have Amanda Ripley like killed by aliens or disappear or whatever, and then just retroactively say, "Oh yeah, Burke just lied to Ellen about what happened to her." Like she said, "Oh, she just died of cancer. She just got old." Like that was a lie. Like all I was saying was that's an easy retcon.
Yeah,
And
I don't know.
The movie still works. Like,
To be
it's still the same
fair,
movie.
I might have seen, maybe like if I saw it, played out, I might buy it, but I don't know. That
I think
seems like a cheap
make
retcon.
it work. Then yeah.
Yeah, if you could make it work, it's whatever. I don't know. I think that'd be pushing a little too far. Like, how many times is she going to trust these people?
But it's still the same movie. Like I don't.
Well, this is. I mean, I don't know. This is the last time she. Because by Alien 3, she definitely doesn't trust this company anymore.
So what you're saying is she shouldn't believe Burke when he tells her that her daughter got old and died. Like, is that what you're saying?
Not necessarily. I would have had her be a little more suspicious about it.
I don't know. Like Burke, he seems like a trustworthy guy at first. He's a wolf in sheep's clothing. He's very
but you also have to remember that this is the same Ripley that was betrayed by what's the robot in the first one? Ash, who was programmed by this very same company. I don't care if it's different people. A company's values don't change in 50 years.
Maybe not, but it's not a detail I'm that focused on.
Yeah.
Because, and then in retrospect, and so to talk about the plot point that comes up later in the movie, I'm right in the end because he's a greedy asshole.
Yeah. No,
that tries to kill her.
Yeah.
He's untrustworthy. But, I mean, I can see why someone would trust him at first.
Yeah, I guess.
He's the only guy on her side.
Yeah. Like he's sticking up for her in the hearing.
Yeah, and like if someone just told you, "Oh, it's been 57 years, you're in cryosleep and your daughter died," like, yeah, I think you're going to be more emotional than suspicious.
Okay, so let me ask you this then, because going by their math, because then she mentioned that it would have been Amanda's like 11th birthday that she was late for.
Maybe that sounds about right. She was around that age.
Yeah.
Okay, so she was 11 years old, and it's been 57 years. So she was only 68 years old.
Yeah, I think she had cancer or something.
Oh, is it? I can't remember.
I don't remember if they specify that in the extended cut, but I mean, you could assume that. Like, Not everyone gets to live to be 80.
Yeah,
I think it's fine.
Some people have died in their late 60s. Like, it's believable.
I don't know, man. I watched Prometheus. You can age people backwards.
Oh God.
Should we use this opportunity to segue to the special edition, though, since we're talking?
Yes, we should.
And I think the photo when you see of old Amanda Ripley, I think that's Sigourney Weaver's mom in real life.
Wait,
wait,
what?
There's a resemblance there, yeah.
Old Amanda Ripley.
Oh,
I think that's Sigourney Weaver's mom.
Okay. Well, you just threw me off because like this picture of old Sigourney Weaver. It's like, wait, what?
Did I say that? I may have missed it. Okay.
Yeah. There's the photo of old Sigourney Weaver in this movie. They photoshopped it in.
They used an AI on her face. They used face app. That's what they did.
So the special edition, which I'm just going to come out and say is the definitive edition of the two cuts that we have. I still think there is a third definitive cut to be had, but of the two, I think there's too much missing from the theatrical cut that's in the special edition. And some of the stuff he cuts really undermines the emotional core of this movie.
I agree.
So for me, I think it's really two scenes that you need in the theatrical cut that shouldn't have been cut. For one, it's the scene we were just talking about Amanda Ripley. And then when you see the colony shortly afterwards, and you get that introduction to Newt's family, it's like a new introduction to Newt. I think that hearing about it in the theatrical cut is fine, but I appreciate that it shows you the start of how the colonies were basically first attacked by the aliens, and I like that more. I appreciate being able to see it rather than just hearing about it.
I prefer that sequence being cut. I think it.
Okay, I've heard that a lot. Yeah,
that's like I think that's fine. I appreciate getting to see that stuff. I've just always preferred more of the suspense and the slow build up, like not knowing what happened, and of course, like if you'd seen the first movie and obviously you've seen the title, so you know there's going to be multiple aliens. Like there's still mystery, you know, there's still surprise there. And like I prefer being introduced to Newt as like just this little feral child and just like the little tidbits of backstory you get from her dialogue. Because I think John can correct me on this. I think her father is the first one infected with a facehugger, and I think that's the guy they later say died, like trying to take the.
You see the facehugger on the dag. Yeah.
I'm surprisingly indifferent. I like that it kind of builds up like, oh, this is the sequel. Like, there's going to be a lot of them this time, because I don't think that's a given in the theatrical cut.
Except for the title.
Well, but just watching the movie. But like you see that scene and you're like, oh shit, like there's going to be a lot of them. How are you going to deal with this? What is madness? And I don't know what James Cameron was thinking as you cut all of the stuff with her daughter. That completely undermines the emotional payoff to that storyline.
Yeah,
I agree.
Well, that would be overall,
go ahead now.
Well, I think overall, the theatrical cut is paced better, and I like that the special edition adds more context to things. But I'm with you, John, that I think there's a secret third cut that needs to be made.
Get on it,
and
Noah.
Really, maybe I will. I don't know. I think all I would do is just take the theatrical cut and put in the Amanda Ripley scene and the colony scene, and really that's it. I don't know if that throws off the pacing too much, but
I'd have to watch both cuts back to back to see what else is missing. Because I watched the theatrical cut or the director's cut yesterday, and then I watched the theatrical cut today, and I have trouble like remembering. Oh, you know, where's that scene? But that stuck with me. To use an example of a game that Robert and I have been playing, that would be like if you cut Sarah out of The Last of Us. Like, oh, I guess Ripley just adopts this girl because she's there. She's a woman, so she likes
yeah.
kids.
Her motherly instincts kicked in.
Yeah, Newt's the new cat of this movie. Newt is the Jonesy of this movie, the thing that Ripley needs to go back for and rescue. But yeah, I can think of a couple scenes that are missing in the theatrical, and the theatrical version still plays great. It's paced really well, but once you see
I'm
that
gonna get
extra
some
stuff,
flack
it's
when
like,
they get to our scores.
oh, I was okay, but like I said, the theatrical cut still works. But Torgo and I disagree on the colony scene. I think that's fine being cut. I just think it helps with the pacing a lot, removing that. But also, when the Marines are there and they're looking for survivors and they're finding nothing, that's a little extended. There's a fake out where I think it's like a hamster or something that they find.
A hamster thing. Yeah.
So I'm kind of indifferent to that part. It adds more tension, but it also slows it down a bit. And another one is when they're approaching the planet, Hudson has like this long monologue, like bragging to Ripley, like explaining like all this equipment and like the weapons and stuff. And it's a good scene. Like Bill Paxton's great, but again, it's like I'm fine with that being removed. It just helps for pacing. And you still get so much Bill Paxton in this movie that like I don't miss it when it's gone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like all of the scenes he has are great.
Yeah, and the big one in the second half of the movie is when they have like the automatic turrets set up in the hallways that shoot and ward off the xenomorphs that are trying to get in. That's good stuff. Like the movie still works without it, but it does just give you some more fun alien action and kind of, again, if I'm going to nitpick the theatrical cut, like you do go a long time after the initial battle without even seeing the xenomorphs, except for like the facehugger sequence. So the turret scene's like cool, but it's still fine without it. But I prefer that being back in.
This might be a hot take, but I actually don't mind the long time without xenomorphs. Like the action in this is good for what it is, but I find in some ways it's limited by the fact that it's just a bunch of Marines. Like, I don't want to say it's uncreative, but 90% of the action is just people shooting at bugs, for better or worse term.
I think they do a good job mixing it up.
It is extremely well shot action, but still 90% of it is just that people shooting at bugs.
There's also the flamethrower.
Yeah,
Mac wants the flamethrower
and the grenade launcher.
I don't think there's as much just running around as and shooting as like there's a few scenes of that, but I really like the turret setup scene just because they do have like the limited ammo and like they're watching the number go down like oh god
Yeah.
And then the facehugger scene's great when Ripley and Newt are trapped. Like that's something you get in this movie that's not in the first one, because the only facehugger you get in the first movie immediately goes on Kane, and here it's like, oh, we're trapped in a room with a couple of facehuggers and this really sucks. That's a great sequence.
No, that might be my favorite action scene just because there's a bit more tension to it. Because it's Ripley, and like that's the character I'm most invested in.
Yeah.
Except for when you cut out her emotional core to the movie, but whatever.
This movie kind of, even though the first one established the facehugger, this one kind of established it as more of like a creature that you can like kill and fight, and like because it shows up in like video games, and then like the AVP movies has like a big scene with the facehuggers from what I remember. So
that's the whole plot of that movie.
I saw it once.
I don't think one thing I like about this movie that is a big criticism is that like, oh, the xenomorphs, they're just bugs in this. I don't completely agree with that. They are stealthy. Like they do learn and adapt throughout the movie. And the big one is just about when they cut the power. And Hudson's like, how they cut the power? They're animals. It's like, no, they're intelligent. But the queen at the end gets on the elevator to go after Ripley. Like, I don't know if they're any dumber than the one in the first movie. Is the difference is you've got a bunch of guys with machine guns in this one. In the first one, they had like a flamethrower and a taser.
But the difference is the first one.
Of them.
The xenomorph in the first movie didn't act like a bug. It acted like a predator. Yes, they do smart. Yes, they do. Yes, they do smart things like turning off the power, but they also have a lot of scenes that are very Starship Troopers, which is why you compare them to bugs.
Well, I think that's what happens when you replace like regular blue collar workers with Marines as the main characters. It's like that's the result of that. Like this is
Yeah.
what is going to
If you have a
happen in that
room,
situation.
if you have a room full of smart guys and a room full of guys with machine guns, the guys with machine guns are
And I
going to win.
understand that, but it doesn't change the fact that they are more bug-like in this one.
Maybe in appearance, but in personality and behavior.
They live in a hive and have a queen.
Yeah.
None of that was in the first movie.
Well, the first one he does have like his little nest. But
they have a nest, but it's just a bunch of eggs. Oh, if you're talking about a cutscene, I haven't seen the cutscenes for Alien.
Yeah.
Well,
that's why people say that is because then that first movie is such a mysterious creature, and it doesn't act like it doesn't have like a pattern that you can describe. It's just a thing. In this, you have to admit they are very bug-like. There's swarms of them. There's a queen, and they have nests.
Well, and I also don't think it's that big of an issue that they're bug-like. I don't mind it in this movie, and I like that it expands on like the lore of the first one because this
is there a lore reason?
Queen. There's a lore reason why the aliens have eggs. Like we finally know who lays the eggs.
I don't think it's either good or bad personally, but I do think it is a bit of a downgrade from like this unstoppable killing machine that it's presented as in the first movie.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but like I said before, like that's just inherently what's going to happen when you put like trained killers. When you put trained killers instead of blue collar workers.
Okay, but imagine.
There's still like a threat. Like they take a lot of the Marines out.
No, the Marines are overwhelmed easily, and I appreciate that. But let me pitch you an idea. You want to take the similar, the Marines go to this colony, and let's say they find one alien. They think, oh, we can handle this. But they don't realize that it's an unstoppable killing machine, like in the first movie, and it picks them off one by one.
The unstoppable killing machine that was shot out of an airlock with a harpoon gun.
But if you remember, just shooting it out of an airlock didn't kill it. I don't remember why it explodes at the end of the first movie, but because it's been a minute.
Well, the engine blasts out. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it took an engine blast to kill just one of them.
Yeah, and they had no weapons. That's all Torgo and I were saying is like they just had a flamethrower and a taser. Like they were limited in their resources, what they could do. And one thing I appreciate.
So don't make your protagonist Marines.
But that's what the movie is. You're just asking for a different movie.
Well, no, what I'm saying is because I don't think the movie that we have is necessarily a problem. I'm just saying that I think there's other routes you could have went. Like maybe, a team went out to find Ripley, but they found the xenomorph instead.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just think what we got works.
Yeah. And one thing I like, though, that is a problem that, like, really kind of hurts just their tactics and what they're even able to do is the acid blood. I like how they keep reminding you of that. Like, one guy just gets sprayed with it and dies when he shoots one. When she kills one, like, that also takes her out because the acid blood goes through her leg and incapacitates her.
On him.
Yeah, and then Hicks like gets incapacitated with it, so it's like even when Ripley is the only one who like kind of comes out of the movie unscathed, and it's a little
Newt was fine.
Ripley,
Newt was fine, but like Ripley is the only one
Bishop
who
was fine.
Shoot a lot of them who like doesn't really get injured.
Ripped in half.
He was fine.
Yeah. Bishop got ripped in half, dude.
That's the one thing I did want to bring up. Where I think the one thing that I think this movie has a major over the first one. Lance Hendrickson. What the hell is that guy's name?
Yeah.
Lance Hendrickson.
Yes. It's so much better than whoever plays Ash in the first movie.
I disagree.
I don't agree with that.
I love Ian Holm.
Oh, so now you hate the cast in the first movie? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that is exactly what I'm saying.
No, Ian Holm's great.
Bad. I just think that Lance brings a better personality to it.
Well, I think that's the
they're
key
different things.
Is that like Bishop is a newer model,
Yes.
so like he's got more of a personality, whereas Ash was an older
Also, to be fair,
model.
I like that actor a lot.
Yeah. Well, Ash is
I
Ian
re-
Holm.
I re-
It's Bilbo
I really
Baggins,
like-
dude.
I really like both
Is that
actors,
who
and
it is?
Mhm.
yeah, it's Bilbo in Lord of the Rings.
Huh.
Um,
I didn't know that.
but Ash does a good job of playing like threatening and cold.
Yes,
which
and
makes sense because he's an older android. So.
there's also just those really weird, like, repressed sexual urges, undertones to him that you get later, like when he's attacking Ripley, when he's like shoving that magazine down her mouth.
Oh,
It's like,
yeah.
why is he doing that? Like, he's a really creepy character, and for most of the movie, he's just like the quiet, like socially awkward one. And they even say like he's the new guy. Like, he's not like a family, like a part of like what the rest
And then
of the
he
crew is. Like,
bleeds
he's the
milk.
new guy. He's the company guy. And that actually does remind me, though, because there's a scene with him I really want to talk about that I forgot to when we reviewed the first movie, when he's like by himself. I think it's when they're first getting to LV-426, where he's by himself and he just has this little moment where he just kind of amps himself up, and it's really weird and interesting that an android. And of course, on first viewing, you don't know why he's doing that, and on second viewing, it's like, oh, because he's mysterious and he's scheming, like he has this other thing going on. Like that, Ash is great. And Bishop, they do a really good job of still keeping some of that socially awkwardness, but just making him a lot more endearing. And on first viewing, you're like, I don't know if I trust that guy. But on second viewing, when you know where it's going, it's like, this guy's great.
I think this is something else the special edition adds. There's like a brief part where he's studying the face hugger. And like some guys... Oh, it isn't? Okay. I couldn't remember if it was in the theatrical cut or not, because when I watched that I was like, oh yeah, that kind of adds a little bit more of like suspicion to him. Like, is he like Ash and he's gonna malfunction and or like go rogue, or he's got like alternate programming. But I like the subversion that he's a good guy.
And I like that. I always love robots in stories who still have like that self-preservation, like when they're saying like, oh, this is like almost a suicide mission, like when he volunteers to go off on his own and he's like, oh, I don't want to do it, but I have to, but I'm not stupid, like I don't want to die. Like I always like when they give robot characters like that bit of personality. It's like, no, I like living. I don't want but
he's got that line where he's like, I may be
synthetic.
I may be synthetic, but I'm not stupid.
No, do you even know what words are?
I just forgot the line.
Well, gents, we are at an hour. The only thing I wanted to bring up is it's kind of impressive how easily Ripley kind of slides into that leadership role once everything goes to shit. And I think this movie kind of shows Sigourney's range. Wow. As an actress, whereas in the first one she's still kind of a leader, but it's a different kind of leader than what she has to be in this one.
Yeah, it's a different type of ensemble movie, but I mean, like Dallas is more of like the de facto leader, until he's taken out.
Right. Well, that's a different guy.
I mean, she's a badass in this movie, and she's great. She like sells all of it. Like,
and there is a lot of debate, but like there are a number of people who prefer Ripley in the first movie. Like, I guess because she's more of an underdog. Some people don't like the backstory they add with her daughter, and I don't get it. Like, she feels like the same character to me, just evolved more. Like, it's the first one's like her real trial by fire, and in this one, like, it's the next level, and I completely buy her growth in her art.
I would say the only thing that's a little weird is she takes to the Marine stuff too quickly for just a civilian.
I mean, she's kind of in the background for the first part, and she doesn't start like taking over until like that incompetent leader guy.
But
the guy who's never been in a battle before, clearly.
However, it is necessary for the movie, and it doesn't ruin anything. I would, in fact, argue that Alien 3 ruins more than this movie does.
I think we all agree with that.
Well, I think I'm probably going to be the biggest Alien 3 defender here, but I still don't like that movie.
I mean,
I have nice
it's
things to
just
say about it.
the inferior Alien sequel. Resurrection is better.
Yeah, we'll see when I rewatch it. I don't know.
That's the one I'm like looking forward to rewatching now that I've had time to digest it.
Well, and I'll be
yeah.
watching the theatrical cut for the first time, and then I will rewatch the what the hell do they
Assembly
call
cut.
it? Yeah, the assembly cut to see the differences. Robert, any final thoughts, and what is your score? I myself am going to separate scores for the theatrical versus the special edition because they do have two different scores for me. So if you want to do it that way, you can, or if you just want to give it an overall score, you can. However you prefer to do it.
Well, we didn't do that for Exorcist 3, but whatever. I'm still just gonna give it a 5. Like it's
Well, but that's because those are
neither-
two different movies. This is just the same movie with more added. Also, fuck you. We're not consistent.
We don't have to be consistent, Robert. Get out of here.
Yeah, I mean the theatrical cut is still awesome, plays great, but I do think Ripley has a richer arc in the extended cut. It's just a slower paced movie, so it just kind of depends on which one I'm in the mood for. Though the extended cut is what I visit more, but still, I'm gonna 5 out of 5. I love this movie. First one's a 5 out of 5. Like I love them equally. I think I've grown. My appreciation for the first movie has just grown more and more with age, and I can call that the better movie. But like these are still both 5 out of 5.
Yeah,
for me.
Absolutely.
So yeah, Alien's great, and we also barely talked about the climax with the power loader, which is so awesome.
Oh yeah,
It's like so many video game boss fights like had to have been looking at this movie. Like this is how you do a final boss and change it up and keep it interesting. Like here are the attacks you got to dodge the tail, you got to dodge the mouth.
dodge.
Yeah, great.
It's straight up a final boss in this movie.
But not the final boss.
That power loader animatronic, however they did it, is freaking incredible. The only goofy shot is when the queen grabs it and pulls Ripley into the shadow. Over. And you can clearly see there is a Sigourney Weaver doll.
Yeah, that's a miniature. That's a really obvious miniature.
And the other stupid part is when she has to like open the airlock, hold on, doesn't warn Newt, or she never says, "Hey Newt, hold on to something." Which everyone's getting sucked out of the airlock, and then for some reason she has to climb out of the airlock and close it at the top because screw you, we're gonna drag this tension out for 20 more seconds. It's a nitpick. It's fun,
and it has one of the best fun, like one-liners in action movie history. Get off her, you bitch!
Get away from her.
Get away.
Yeah, whatever. Shut up.
Actually, it's get away from her.
Yeah, Robert just actually'd me.
I did.
I even typed it in the chat,
well
John.
Wait, what?
I quoted "Get away from her, you bitch" earlier.
Oh.
Anyway.
Yeah. I love this movie. Torgo, go on.
Torgo, final thoughts? Yeah. Anything else that you feel like we didn't cover? And your score?
I honestly did not think this movie was going to get on the 5 out of 5 list, but here we are. 5 out of 5. I love this pretty much equally to Alien. I'd say maybe Alien's probably the better movie, but like I'll watch these back to back.
There's no probably, it is the better movie.
You're probably right. I'll watch these. I'll watch these back to back anytime and have a great time. Great time with it. So yeah, it's just sci-fi action horror classic.
Are you giving a separate score to the theatrical and extended, or is that just your score for both cuts?
Just overall 5 out of 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm adding it to the list right now since the majority.
I kind of assumed I'd be the only person that would give it 5 out of 5. But
oh no, I love this movie. When I was a teenager, like this was my favorite. Like I like the first one, but I definitely like this one more. But now they're like unequal.
Oh yeah, this used to be my favorite, but
I guess I will be the odd man out. I think this is a good sequel. Kind of what you could ask for from a sequel. It belongs in that same camp of like Terminator 2, The Dark Knight. Struggling to think of other sequels that like people love.
Empire Strikes Back.
Empire Strikes Back, where it's bigger and more and like but different at the same time. This is where I get crucified on the internet. I'm giving the theatrical cut a 3 out of 5.
Wow.
Whoa.
And I am
Low.
giving the director's cut a 4 out of 5. I really think you need at least that one scene. The 5 out of 5 cut exists there somewhere that is just as good as that first movie, but we do not have it. That's why I brought that up, because I feel like I had to score them differently, because without the crux of Ripley's arc, the rest of Ripley's story, in my opinion, doesn't work for me. But yeah, that is my score for Aliens.
Yeah.
So next week we are doing Gotham City Bulletin, Batgirl Year 1, and then we're coming back to Haven and 4 in 2 weeks from today with our review of Oculus. Are you excited?
I'm excited.
You look so excited, Noah. You're just like, I'm excited.
I'm very excited.
Very excited. Robert, as always, thank you for being here. I appreciate that you push back when I'm rambling. I think our arguments are very entertaining for the crowd. Hopefully,
I think you enjoy them more than I do.
Oh, I enjoy them quite a bit. Yes. Oh, that's sad. I'm gonna have to go get more after. Noah, as always, thank you for being here. We appreciate it, and we'll talk to you guys. We'll see you guys next time.
See ya. Have a good one.